Oh, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to yet again another Free Support Friday with none other than your host, Fusion Phil over here at JitCAD Cam. Glad to see a lot of you guys out there. Looks like I'm missing some of my stats here. Let me go ahead and get my stats pulled up. You guys can hear me all right. You guys can see me all right. Before I closed out my window to make sure my stream was coming through, I saw a whopping 7 of you out there. It might be more. Let me know in chat if you guys can hear me, see me all right. At any time, if you guys have any questions you would like to ask, anything in particular you would like to see, feel free to throw it in chat. I'll try to maintain that as much as possible. You guys can also use the support link inside of chat at any time or in the description of this video to put in a ticket, whether you're watching this live or later on. We're always happy to help the best we can when we can. But with that, I think we're going to go ahead and kick it off. I don't see anybody in chat. I want to make sure you guys can hear me and see me, but I mean, if you can't, we're recording this either way and we could always publish it at a later date. So let's jump over to my screen share. Oh, I almost forgot. We need to kick things off, of course, with none other than the energy drink of the day, or as you guys know, my Buy Me a Beer program, where you have the ability that if you come here, get your questions answered, and you feel like we saved you more than it cost you in time wasted, you could always buy me a beer, steak, or even a lobster. So let's get this going. Got a good old drink of the energy drink. Let's get my screen shared here, and I think we are good to go. So right off the start, this was one that we've fought around with a little bit. We've discussed it a few times. You guys have seen it quite a bit. But in short, what is happening here is one of our users is having a problem with the leads and linking. In the feature on this part, if I go ahead and go in and I do a section analysis, as you're going to notice the feature that I'm dealing with is actually kind of a dovetail tapered feature, right? So this is pretty common if you guys haven't seen this before. Most cases is you're going to put an O-ring down there. It's going to snap into place and sit nicely. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go back to their toolpath. And now if we were to simulate this or look at it with the stock on, so let's get our actual analyze out of the way. And if I hit F8, what you will notice is depending on your lead in, lead outs, we're actually colliding with our part. So this could be a big issue or a small issue, depending on what you're going for here. In this case, we would like to lead out basically to match the profile in which we're trying to machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to utilize the modify leads and link section. And what this is going to allow me to do is to either control all leading links, moves of such, or in this case, I want to control just an individual kind of move. So from here, as you guys can see, is we're going to go over to our heights tab. By default, as you notice, everything is going straight vertical. The cool thing here is again, when you get into more of the complex 3D toolpaths and things of that nature, you actually get a little bit more control. So for example, just to give you guys an idea of how this works, let's go ahead and swap this out to a cylinder and hit OK and get what we see by default. As you guys are seeing here now, my linking move is going to shoot out of my part because it is trying to make itself to the closest distance possible. So again, if I go in and I edit this lead linking move, if I was to switch that out for something like a cylinder, as you're going to notice again, I'm going to get a little bit different result. In this case, it's shooting all the way up to where that cylinder is. So I can actually use that to my advantage here. One thing, of course, is I could always decrease the size of the actual cylinder we're working with. Let's say I'm just going to go with a diameter of 50. And as you notice, that shrank up a lot. And it's also utilizing an origin point of my setup WCS. So again, I hit OK. It's going to be a little hard to see, but as you notice, that linking move now shoots out, again, trying to get to the closest location on the sphere, which is what I'm thinking is going to work to our advantage. So again, I go back into my steep and shallow toolpath. Actually, I am wrong there. We're going to go ahead and shift over. We're going to go down to our leads and linking tab. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reposition the sphere. So let's go ahead and do a selected point. And I'm going to go pull one of my points based on where that actual center is that I'm looking to push that toolpath in and out. Now, one other thing we can do is we can compensate this in Z. So let's say I want to shift it up by 50. As you're going to notice, my linking move now shoots straight up and out of my part. So again, depending on your leads and your linking moves, we can actually use the ability to push the sphere up higher to again accomplish that task. So one thing I might want to do is go into this toolpath. Let's say I don't want to do an actual vertical lead out radius. And let's say we also keep a 0 in our lead out radius plus our vertical. And now we should see a straight line out of our part once it recalculates. Giving this a few moments here. Again, guys, if you have questions at any time, throw it in chat. Pompey boy, thank you, buddy. I see your thumbs up finally. I don't know if there's a delay to the system. Can I refresh this at all? Or you guys are just joining me now. So again, as you're seeing is when I remove the leads and linking, I need to go into my toolpath and actually adjust for that, right? So again, do I want to do all moves? Am I looking for the lead in, lead out moves or the link moves only? So again, I can pick just the linking. And as you can see, again, I'm getting that shooting out away from my part, but it has somehow actually put a lead in back on that profile. So again, what we're doing is we're overriding what's inside of Fusion. So I may need to say, you know, on the lead in, lead out, I don't need a lead out. I can go ahead and adjust that, get that straight line interval. Now, this is where it might be a little messy for some of you guys where you're going to have to do a little geometry to figure out the exact location of that sphere. But again, a good guessing game here is I'm not quite high enough yet. We could always eyeball this, right? So if I take this up to, you know, 80 now versus 50, what I'm really looking to do is to match the angle at which that cutter goes in and out to give me a nice clean entry and exit position. As you guys can see, again, I moved my sphere up. That linking move might be just a little bit too wild for some of your liking. However, I've slowly narrowed this down and achieved what I wanted. So again, I could actually at the end of the day go back in. We could always increase the size of the sphere because again, we're tangent to the shortest distance. And that could, again, remedy some of those problems. So again, we're going to go up to 100. This is now absolute overkill. But as you guys can see, I'm now keeping that lead out. Again, this is the linking for the lead out because we removed the lead out. But just like that, we're now shooting out of our part at an angle. Again, as I'm seeing just by default, I don't see anything too crazy surface defect. We might have a tiny one here just because my angle is ever so slightly off. But if we were to simulate this, let's go ahead and give it a look and see what we come up with. So again, there's our tool path. We're going to go ahead and hit play, see if we can't get down to the end of this. And see what happens when we try to get out of the part. So again, if any of you guys have any questions at any time, feel free to throw them in chat. We're here for you guys to see. Again, I'm seeing a little bit of a touch there on that inside area, but I think we're actually safe on this part because we haven't done the inside wall. So again, I'm going to go in. Let's go ahead and look at comparison. Love to see it. And I'm not seeing any collisions in red whatsoever, which would lead me to believe we're actually pretty safe with the way I have this set. Obviously, from here, customer still needs to go in and utilize their ability to now machine the vertical wall in there. That's a whole nother conversation, of course. But as you can see, let me get the stock out of the way. It might be a little bit easier for you guys to see this. Again, we've angled down in there. They do need to still come back and at some point cut that actual vertical wall. So, opening the floor up to each and every one of you. Do you guys have any questions? Anything in particular you're looking to see? I know I haven't got a whole lot of requests this week for things, but I do have several things that I'd be happy to show you guys outside of this. Now, I am going to throw it up in chat again real quick if you guys want to utilize our support system. There is the link to go out and put in a ticket so that we can answer your questions live here today. I'm going to go ahead and jump back over to the ticket system, make sure that nobody put in any tickets. And of course, we're going to go ahead and solve this ticket. There we go. I have my little helper coming in visiting, as always. And let's get back over to OBS so I can see what you guys have going on. So I'm not seeing, again, I don't see a lot of you guys today. What is today's date? Are you guys still tuckered out from your day off on Tuesday? Let me know. I'm going to go ahead and shift gears here to a lathe problem that I had come through that was pretty interesting. Can you please show how to model a 12-inch chuck? See, there's the questions. Is there a delay? Is there something going on? Post question. Add a coolant post as a Fusion selection. I would need to know, what do you mean by coolant post there, Deep Thinker? But back to Pompey's question. Show a model a 12-inch chuck on a lathe. Sure. So for those of you that don't know, we do have a video on utilizing a simple way to create a chuck. Now, I am going to warn you guys, if you haven't seen my content, I like to show kind of two ways to do stuff. One is probably the wrongest, but yet easiest way to get the point across. The other is a super complex, over-the-top exaggeration. We saw that with the dovetail vise a few weeks ago. So if I was to model a chuck vise, this is something, in my opinion, is I don't need to model all of the jaws separately because the chuck spins. That's just me. You guys take it for what it's worth. If you're concerned about getting between the chuck faces, I'll show you a little trick here at the end of the day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a brand new file, as you guys know. We're going to go ahead and say this is the 12-inch chuck. And from there, we're going to just start with nothing more than the good old standard sketch system. I don't know how your guys' chucks all align and work at the end of the day, but any of you out there that have ever taken any of my classes, you know I like to use rectangles. It works quite well. And I think a lot of you are going to see exactly what I'm doing here and why this is going to work. But from a base level, my goal is to take those chuck jaws and spin them. Now, I am accommodating a through spindle here. And so that you guys can get the picture here before I go back and actually give this dimensions to control it, if I revolve this, this, and this around a center line, I have now basically created a spinning chuck. Plain and simple, right? I can advance from here quite a bit if you're really, really concerned about having a 3-jaw chuck. What I could do from here, of course, is create a new sketch. Now, some of you may or may not know this, is you could sketch on a plane or a face. I'm going to go right here off this front face, another rectangle from center. What this is going to give me now is basically what I want for jaws. And from that, I can now go through and either extrude or cut, depending on what you're going for, right? So this is something different. This is something new for a lot of you, is if I was to extrude now, this area here, I could extrude to this face. Again, I might keep the inside area as well. And then instead of doing a join cut, there's also what's called intersect. So if I wanted to only keep that piece, I could easily do so outside of that. So again, this is where we start to talk about the technicalities. Are you really in need of actually modeling the gap in between the jaws? Again, another way, just a little simpler for a lot of you out there, would be is let me create my sketch again, and then I could lay out those lines for my angles, right? So again, there's a line vertical. Here's a line at, you know, whatever position, and I could rinse and repeat that a few more times. You guys are going to see me here in a minute. I'm going to come back and clean this all up and give everything true angles. And now one thing I can do, because I do have my through spindle to my advantage, I could put my points on there, but the concept is still the same, right? So what I'm really looking for is just a way to be able to go through and now remove the pie sections of where the jaws would be. Let me know, Pompey, are you keeping up with me? Is anybody more confused than when we started? And just to see that, if I go through and pick those areas, the idea would be is that I can grab each one of them and then I could drag them out. And as you could see, presumably you have your 3 jaws, right? So as you're going to see from here, I just need to go back and maybe clean this up a little bit or make it controlled by dimensions. So again, I go back to my sketch. If you guys didn't know this as well, this is my center line for revolving around my profile. I'm going to say that's my center line, meaning that any dimension that I pull now is going to be based on a diameter or a radius, right? So again, that's a 2-inch diameter. We were talking about a 12-inch chuck. As you're seeing me do this in real time, This is where I would also do something like, what is my stock size that's going to sit in here, right? So again, let's say we're going to start with a 4-inch piece of stock. I can now make my jaw sizes however you guys plan to do it. Let's say we're 2 inches this way. This guy is 0.625. Maybe the height of this is 1. And lastly, let's just say this is also 1. What I'm doing here is defining all of my controls to be able to utilize something like a parameter table to fix and adjust things. Now, this is another pro tip for any of you design people out there. As you can notice, if I look at my sketch right now, I do not have my favorite little thing, which is the red padlock. So I'm going to drag this over and snap it. Now you can see all my lines are white. If you're working with a white background, they will turn black when constrained. And now I have what's called the fully constrained symbol, which is that little padlock. That padlock also stands for the fix unfix. But if you don't have everything fully constrained, keep in mind there is the ability to auto constrain things as well to find what you're missing. So again, what you guys are seeing here in real time, I could now add an additional item here. Now this is again going to come down to how you feel like setting it up, but I'm going to put in an additional sketch in place. And what that sketch is going to allow me to do is now create my stock, right? So again, what you're seeing here is I have the length of my stock, whatever that's going to be. Maybe I'm going to control how far it sticks out. Again, how far do I want to chuck up on it? And then lastly, I'm still using that 2-inch diameter for anything and everything. Actually, I'm using the 4-inch right here that I should drag outside of my way. So again, there's my chuck. I just need to, again, go in, revolve, reuse that first sketch, which is going to be my stock around center. And now, as you can see, that could be a new body. And just like that, I have now developed a 12-inch chuck with jaws that if I take this a little bit further, I can go into my parameters table, and then I can control any of the parameters that I want. So just off the top of my head, we added in, again, how much we're going to hold on to, total length of material, and then we need that 4-inch diameter, right? So as you're going to see me do here in a minute, we're going to get moved around. And so you guys can see this, I just favorited them, is at this point, maybe I want to hold on to 1 inch worth of material. I want that piece to be 5 inches long. And then lastly, it's a 2-inch diameter piece of stock. So just like that, I'm very quickly updating and changing the parameters that I have here. So let me know, Pompey, what does this look like for you for the 12-inch jaw setup? Again, as you guys saw, is I like to proof of concept stuff, so I can go back now. These guys need to be parallel. These guys need to be parallel. Of course, these need to be parallel. And I can continue to build this out and get it all set in place. Again, we want to get these guys snapped down on that circle. Easier to do it with a coincidence just because we can quickly reference them in. Haven't forgot about you yet, Deep Thinker. I'm going to jump over to your question here in a minute, but I just want to make sure we give everybody ample time to get the answers they are looking for. So again, 120, 120. This is one of those things that if you guys didn't know, again, we're creating a driven because 120, 120, and everything is parallel. Now, you don't have to get this fancy with it. You could have, at the end of the day, actually kept it much easier when it comes to the modeling portion of things. So again, if I was to do something like a horizontal vertical of this, that is now perfectly locked out. Now, as you can see, it moves in and out. Let me remove some of these other lines. So I would just need to set a diameter, or I could project whatever my inside diameter is to be used. Again, the goal here is just to create some type of profile that works best for what you're doing. So again, let's just say we're going to go with that 2-inch, which is going to end up as 4. I say finish sketch. Actually, I'm going to have to go back and adjust that. But as you guys are seeing, is that's my cut move. We'll adjust it. Don't worry. And then instead of doing each of the 3 openings or 4 openings, this is where I could go in, pattern, circular features. And that feature is that extrude, center. And then as you guys are seeing, we're getting 3 little notches here. So again, I have that full range to customize and change this out to whatever I want. So again, if I would have did this a little bit wiser, yours truly having nothing but the best of time over here. add that actually overlap to center a little bit. Let's say that dimension's just a wee bit smaller. And then from there, as you're seeing, is now split into 3 nice, pretty little jaws to utilize. So I'm going to go ahead and pivot now. Deep Thinker with the question in chat. Post question, add a coolant post as a function selection through spindle air and regular air to turn on. Sure thing. Deep Thinker, what post processor are you using? And then I could jump in, or I could show you on like a basic Haas post. And then I also need to know whether or not you're using machine definition. This will make a big difference at the end of the day. So let's go ahead and save this, and let's go and pivot back to another item. Beer's on the way. Thank you, Pompey. I appreciate that completely. So as you guys can see, I'm a big advocate for this now, just so you guys know. At first, I'm like most of you. I fight something new. I don't want to do it. But the idea of using a machine nowadays makes so much sense. And I want to point this out, that I know you don't have machine simulation for everything, mill turns, lathes. Maybe your mill isn't built out and it's still just a basic 3-axis machine. As you guys can see here, I'm going to just build one from scratch just to make life easy. So let me get into the folder that we can destroy. Actually, we have one right here. So when I refer to this, this is very important. We have video content. If you guys run into problems, it's very, very important to set up your kinematics tree properly, right? And one of those that some people overlook is if I go to the head setting, this is where I have the option to turn on things like through spindle coolant plus flood coolant, through spindle coolant. We can utilize things like air. Again, each one of these options are the ability to turn on. In the case of Deep Thinker, you're seeing I'm utilizing the ability to turn this on. And what that is going to do for me is, if I have any tools now, I'm going to edit my tool. If any of your tools have the wrong coolant settings on them, so if I was to say mist right now, as you're going to see, I need to update my tool paths, and I should get an error given that everything is set right. So let's get back in here. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to turn it on to mist, and we did get that error as you guys were seeing. Let's go ahead and do this one more time. Current machine does not support operations. So again, when using machine definition, you need to make sure that it's even toggled on at that level. So let's go over to air, right? So as you guys are seeing, my error has gone away. And if I post-process this, it's probably going to work because that's my luck, but I'm still going to show you guys how to get around this. So let's go ahead and hit post-process. And just like that, we got NC code. My Visual Studio isn't opening up. And we actually got good code with no errors. So let's go back and let's double check a few things here. So I've turned it on at the machine level. I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit my post processor now. Now, every post is a little bit different, but I can tell you here on the right side is what we're really looking to do is jump down to a section where you can see right here is it's basically your coolant codes, right? So a few things is you do have some samples up here at the top. Again, this is nothing more than referencing those boxes that we were checking inside of the actual machine definition. So for example, I thought we were going to get lucky with coolant mist. However, as always, it wasn't because it was already on inside this post. But I would just need to make sure that in this case, coolant air is set to whatever on or off is. Now, what you guys are seeing here, in case you didn't know, some of these have just on, some have on and off. And the reason for that is down here, you have a specific coolant off command as well. So again, air on and off could be specific numbers. From that, we could actually utilize others as well. So again, you could have flood and mist, flood and through. Again, setting up multiple coolant codes to come out at once. Deep Thinker, what do you got over there? I'm looking to add an ID for a new post selection. What is the post selection you're looking for? I need a little bit more information. A new ID in which way? A new coolant ID? We'll give you a few moments there. In the meantime, I'm going to go check the old ticket system. It also makes sure that somebody isn't lying about buying beers. No, I'm just kidding. So let's see here. I don't see any new tickets coming in yet. So again, we're going to go ahead and jump back over to the ticket system. I did get a ticket in, but it's not from any of you guys. However, oh, beautiful. Okay, sweet. So through air and air ID. Okay. So the problem you're going to have with that is what you really need to do at the end of the day is you're not necessarily going to be able to do it with machine definition unless there's an option to trigger both. So again, this is one of those things when we look at kinematics head, you do have through flood through tool, right? So this applies again. What I would say is what you need to do is have to set this up. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head is because there is no option to do both. But what you could do, bear with me here, is we could force the post to actually dump both codes, right? So I would need to see your use case because instead of just having air through or just air, we're not getting the combination. This is a question for Autodesk at the end of the day. Why they don't think about that, I don't know. It's like they forget about us router people out here, right? But we could presumably use air through tool to do both all in one shot. So again, if we go back to our post processor, which I should still have pulled up, coolant through tool, coolant air through tool. Again, using an example down here like 7 and 12. Let's just say, for example, I want on to be, let's get our brackets in here. So where you guys see how terrible of a typist I am, is we're going to go on is 14, comma 144. And then we're going to go ahead and turn that off, or we're going to close out that bracket. And then we could rinse and repeat the same thing over here for off. If you needed both two separate codes, we have 15, comma 145. Again, we're going to go ahead and close that out. And just like that, we've now used both options on a single line selection. So as you're going to see, if I go back, double checking, of course, our toolpath. So we want air through tool. And then we go ahead and repost this. Either I'm going to break the post processor, which you guys get to watch me use the troubleshooter, or it's going to work. 1 in a million around here, right? Again, as you guys are seeing here, we got our NC code on. What we're looking for is an M14 into M144. As you see, M14, M144, I've just merged them down to a single line item. So Deep Thinker, let me know, is this going to work for you? Is it not going to work for you? Because the only other way I could think is in some cases you can utilize things like a manual NC. There's a lot of different options here as well that does allow you to do different things as well. So let me know, guys. Anybody else have any other questions? It's looking a little light this week, but that's okay. I'm feeling a little under the weather anyways, which is more than okay. I'm going to go ahead. Nothing in the ticket system. There's no other questions. I'm going to go ahead and pivot over to a little bit of lathe stuff today. So I'll give this a little bit more time. Is there a delay in chat? You guys will have to let me know. So let's go ahead and jump over to a little bit of lathe work. So one of the biggest problems or error messages I get, I don't know what causes this. Specific models on the lathe for some reason come through and they have a dilemma, right? So what you guys are going to see me do here, I am going to create a very generic part for turning. And as you guys can only imagine that, as always, we do this down and dirty, super quick, and then I regret something later. So Pompey downloaded a post. Awesome. Pompey, I don't know if that's a question or a statement, my guy. Congrats, I guess. So let's do our setup. Turning. We're going to go ahead and flip our Z. I figured as much that you sent it too early, but it's a pretty good time that you had to put that out there. So I guess, guys, round of applause. Maybe can you guys like Pompey's question here? I'm going to go ahead and hit him with a little heart symbol here. I got to do it in the main chat. There we go. Hit him with 100. He downloaded a post. But back to what I'm talking about. So as you guys can see by default, we have a part profile, we're doing a lathe, and we are utilizing a spun profile for this. I have seen this commonly in the past that if there was a hole at about your 12 o'clock position, wherever your x-axis aligns to, is it can cause problems with toolpath. So again, I'm going to do this a little dirty, see if I can't force this error. I know another way that I saw this error a little bit earlier this week, and we're not going to get it, but usually the error is along the lines of a split body. So I can force this, as funny as it is, by turning off spun profile, if I remember. And as you guys can see, this error right here telling me that it is split into 2 or more closed parts. So what has happened is by not spinning that profile, it thinks you have two bodies based on splitting of the part. So this is pretty common. We see it quite often. Now, again, you guys saw me force this error by turning off spun profile. Some things that will help you when you run into this, for example, turning up your spun profile tolerance, which makes me think that the model you're importing might not be as accurate as the spun profile is going for. But as you're seeing is I can, of course, remedy that situation. Now, the problem that one of my customers was having outside of that is they were dealing with a part that used to be 2 pieces that were welded together. So what I'm going to do here, again, butcher a perfectly good sketch. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an additional body here. Now, it was very little the problem that they had. So there was a gap ever so tiny between the 2 profiles. Again, we're going to go ahead and revolve the second profile here around center once again. And if you could think about this, this is one of those things that in the world of turnkey fabrication or trying to streamline your process, somebody came up with the idea that they should have did this in 2 different pieces and then welded them together. And then later on, I think they got a bigger lathe. The bigger lathe allowed for them to go in and actually do this all in one go around. But if I get back to manufacture, and if we go ahead and hit regenerate here, I don't know if it's going to pull it by default. We might have to go back and fix our setup. But what you'll see happen from time to time is if I do a brand new setup once again, my Z-axis the right way, and then if my model was both of these features, everything looks good down until the point when I'm actually trying to do my turning profile. And this is where they were getting the error. Now, the key element that was giving everything away was the fact that if they wanted to machine all of this, why am I only getting a blue profile, which is the spun profile, if you guys didn't know, and you could turn that on or turn it off down here at the bottom, is that it wasn't recognizing the second body. Now, again, mine are pretty gapped far apart. Their problem was they were so close together you couldn't see it with your naked eye. So how we remedied that is by going back to design. We could either do a joint if you designed your part properly with components. Let me just make that fully clear. You could also do this just with a move command. So as you guys can see here is I could do a point-to-point move. I would like to move this body, and I would like to go from this location to center of this location. And if you caught that, it slid that body in ever so slightly, which allows me to go back to manufacture and actually regenerate my toolpath. And just like that, even though it's 2 separate pieces, we've now gotten our toolpath to recognize that true spun purple profile. Deep Thinker, question in the chat. I have a post modification the way you did. Just can't see that the feature in the selection, really just need the combo for deep milling pockets to get the chips out. I got to read that one more time. My brain is not registering it. Just can't see the feature in the selection. What do you mean you can't see the feature in the selection, I guess? Pompeii downloaded a post from Autodesk for an Akuma turn mill lathe with B axis. So, Pompeii, you have a Multus. That's what you have? So, given you have a Multus, I would highly recommend, this is a complex 5-axis lathe. You need to go ahead and reach out to us because we do have several custom post processors to help with that. Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be even crazier when we talk about, is it OSP 100, 200, 300, all of the configurations out there for the Multis, they all have their own personality. I swear to it. I don't care if you bought 5 of them all at the same time. And this is nothing against Akuma, still like Akuma, but for some reason, there's always these little quirks, different parameters. Maybe they shipped from the East Coast versus the West Coast. But if you want, Pompey, I could try to answer a couple of questions up front. Again, given the complexity of that machine, I would highly recommend that you go ahead and send us an email to the info email address, and we honestly get you set up right with our post expert over here, which for the record, guys, I am not the post expert over here. I'm the Control F expert over here. We have a whole nother guy dedicated to doing post processors that eats, sleeps, and breathes that stuff. Was just saying that I did what you did for post modification. Okay. Did it work? Is it going to work? Y'all good? Is it me? Gotta be me. I can't read right. How do you guys feel about the new update? I'm pretty stoked about it. I honestly, I don't think it's a huge deal at the end of the day, but I think the whole idea of the way the lathe tooling orientation works is going to be a gift to some of the questions that I've gotten over the years. Awesome. Any other questions outside of there? I see people coming and going. It's always great to have you guys. I'm going to check the ticket system as always to make sure nobody sneaked in a ticket while we weren't looking. If you guys do have questions, feel free to ask them in chat as everybody is doing. And I'm willing to keep this thing open as long as you guys keep asking questions. So I'm going to get back over the YouTube chat. Go ahead and make sure that we're on schedule for time, that there's nothing too pertinent to get to. Going once, going twice, nothing. You guys have nothing. Let me go back into all of my old tickets. Let's see. There's always a theme. I actually have one. Oh man, I'm going to be opening a can of worms, guys. So let's get back through here. Let me just double check some stuff here real quick. You guys see that we're going to be live Wednesday next week doing Machine Connect with Autodesk. It's probably one of the cooler things that they've released where you could do live machine data of your machines on your shop floor. It's now easier to pick a round shape or a round stock on an odd shaped milling profile. Is it? I didn't even know. This is new to me. Let's see. Let's go check this out. Fixed size cylinder from Bounding Solid. That's right. I forgot about the Bounding Solid thing. Definitely something that could be extremely beneficial. Now, if I can only figure out how to use it in the very short amount of time that we're sitting here. Got our part. Let's go through here. Let's just go ahead and see if we can't get down to the body itself. And that's probably why we're having some fun. And typical, I can't get it to work right. Is it because we're in mill? We are in milling. That looks right. XYZ looks correct. Oh, we're in the wrong area of mill. From Bounding Solid. Do you guys get it to work? Is it me? Always me. I feel like it's always me. Let's go ahead and go with what I know best, which is let's undo some stuff here. This is probably not the best of use cases for those of you out there wondering, because we are now dealing with a part that is quite wild. So again, Z-axis up from Bounding Solid. It's not letting me pick a solid. Huh. Let's go ahead and do the learn more, right? Let's learn today. Let's learn today. From Bounding Solid. Where's it at here? Model position. Even the best of us got to go out and read the instructions every once in a while. Cylinders. If you guys are saying anything in chat right now, I apologize. From Solid. We know about that one. From Bounding Solid. I mean, there we go. There's our definition, right? That sounds about normal. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else we could do with this. So we can go from bounding solid. Do we have to generate a bounding solid? Pompeii, I believe you can still buy us a beer from the UK. I think we removed everything, so you should be good to purchase from the UK. So let's see what we got here. So if you guys didn't know, there's quite a bit of cool things here. We could actually replace with primitives. Again, if you were looking to create your own stock, the only thing I don't like about this, and again, Autodesk, when you guys get the chance, why is it replace? Why can't we just create primitive off of, right? So again, this would be super cool here to just go in and create a primitive shape based on that information. So again, I don't think it's going to be there. And I think it, like I said, guys, I think it's just based on me being me. I am going to start with what always seems to work, which is let's get back to the world of a simple profile, right? Again, we got a box. There's our box for machining. And let's create our setup. Small Boy John. I love these names, guys. The YouTube names crack me up. But how would you program a tombstone with multiple parts? John, are you talking about different parts on each side of the tombstone, different setups? What are we going with? So as you guys can see here, we got our cube. We're going to go ahead and create our setup in milling. Probably going to screw this up somewhere along the ways. Why can't I get from bounding solid again? I don't know what I'm doing. You guys know what I'm doing? Just not. Is this one of those things? It's not like a second setup thing, is it? Let's go for it. Let's say we were going to flip our part over. Nope, it's not one of those things. Just pick from round stock. What do you mean pick from round stock? I'm literally at pick. It's asking me for a bounding solid. I can't. Okay, I mean, it's not, there's nothing to pick. I'm telling you guys, it's me. Gotta be me. I could do from solid. I get that one, but from bounding solid? Is there a better explanation if we just chill out here? Lets you specify a component created with the bounding solid tool used as a reference. So is there a, you know what? I'm going to get mad about this. Is there some fixed size cylinder? Oh, no. Hold up. Y'all are making this difficult. There's something hiding somewhere that I don't know about. I feel like is it one of those things that you have to go in and use manufacturer models? You guys use the manufacturer models? Now I'm not trying to naysay anybody here, but I can't, when I go from bounding, can't pick anything. I'm just supposed to hit OK. Bounding solid. It's gotta be me. I can't win. It's not. It's asking for a selection, but I can't select anything. Or is it going to self-align a solid, is what you're saying? So if I had, let's just go back here. So let's say, for example, I had a cylinder profile over here, right? If I go in and I say manufacturer, and I want to go from bounding, I can't pick the other solid. Am I crazy? Guys, help. I need an adult. I still feel like this is something that is all because of, is it coming from manufacturer model side of things? You guys can be honest with me. Edit manufacturer model. Is there like a, I feel like I'm missing something. What am I missing? mine just broke? Mine's probably broke. I'm not, yeah. Or it wouldn't fight a center. Now it's close. I guess I just don't see how it's supposed to work. From bounding solid. What is it asking? Oh well. Fail of the week, right? Put it on the board. I saw a question come through about a tombstone setup. So there is some things happening inside of Fusion if you guys haven't seen. It's the ability to insert manufacturing data. Now, based on the latest update, we didn't really cover this. However, it is hidden in here. Let's get down to manufacturing. I believe there was some talk about the inserting manufacturer data. So let me get down EMI data, import CAM data for linked designs. So as you guys know, there is some stuff in here. And as you're going to see, only allowed you to adjust the workspace coordinate system to refine how the toolpaths are applied to the new assembly. Now we've enhanced WCS editing, allowing complete redefinition. So this is going to be a down and dirty way that I'm going to do this to show this off to you guys. But what I'm going to do, again, let's go ahead and get back to all of my tickets to make sure nobody's got a ticket in. So let's back this up here real quick. Let's say, for example, I'm making this cube, right? So when I go into manufacture, I'm going to create my setups as you guys have already seen me do. From here, we're going to go ahead and face off our part. I'm going to have to grab some generic tools. Bear with me. There we go. We faced off our part. I'm going to, again, now do another setup later. Maybe I'm going to do something on this side of my part. And for the sake of this, we're going to go ahead and keep our X. There we go. And from proceeding, beautiful. Let's just go ahead and duplicate our facing. And just like that, you know, have more or less setup 1 into setup 2. I got my X axis the wrong way. I'm going to fix that here. I am all over the place today. Let's just run with it. You know what? All right. So if I started a new file and said file actually had my tombstone, give me a quick second to whip this out. So and we'll get that bottom. So here's my generic tombstone. Again, as you guys know, we build very, very high-tech content around here. But this would more or less be my manufacturing file, right? I would have inserted this tombstone and probably broke the link. You're going to have vices. You're going to have different jigs and fixtures in play. This is where I'm just doing a down and dirty for you guys, right? So I'm going to now bring in my part. And as you can see, this is my part out in space. Now, I do need to place my part profile based on my manufacturing. So this is where, if you guys haven't seen this in the past, joints can be your best friend. Again, we're going to repeat that. Actually, we're going to back up one sec because I inserted that into the tombstone component. We want to make sure that we put it at the top level. Bring it back in here one more time. Now, it's going to be a little crazy the way we have to set this up and use this, because at the end of the day, when we jump over to manufacture, we can insert our actual manufacturing data. And as you can see, my setups have now come through automatically. Now, what they're referring to with everything going on is the ability to redefine your WCS options on this part. So again, based on your toolpaths, your directions, your locations. So what I would need to do is go back to design. I'm going to go ahead and do that joint move again, now that I kind of know which way Z up is. So there's one, and then I'm going to copy and paste this so that I can go ahead and place it a second time on our tombstone. Now, again, direction and everything makes all the difference. This is where something that would be very wise at the end of the day is possibly utilizing joint origins to make sure your part is orientated correctly. But as you're seeing is when I jump back over to my setups, I can now redefine that information. Now I can, again, not create manufacturing model. What am I doing? Insert manufacturing data. As you can see, because I have two components, I now have two setups. I can also delete one out of one. Again, you can break the link as you guys are seeing, break the link here, delete this one. And then here, I don't need this setup because we're already going to do that. So again, my XYZ is completely wrong, guys. Bear with me. But what I think you're starting to see here is the ability to utilize different parts that you've programmed externally and then bring them in for actual manufacturing. So again, in this case, it actually reverted back. Let me go ahead and see what's going on here. And we may just need to have to define the part that we're actually working on. So again, this would be one way you could set it up. As you guys can see, there's a lot of different ways to get these parts in here. Again, you could have actually set this up if you wanted to a more traditional way. If I break the link on both of these and delete them out, you didn't necessarily need to insert the cam data. You could just go through in your normal workflow. Again, Z and Y in this case, because Y axis is always up usually. I could go through. I would need to know if you have 68.2 on your machine, dynamic work offset, anything like that. Because if you didn't, you may need to go based on, in this case, I'm going to go model origin because my tombstone sits on center. Again, just making my life easy. Here's what I'm machining. Here's my fixture. Again, there's my first setup. I could then go back, create a whole nother setup, turning on my other part this time and kind of rinse and repeating everything. Now, the second setup could be from preceding. And this is something that I don't know if you guys know this, but because the way Fusion works with that copy and paste is it will actually continue to bring your stock model through. So again, let's say I'm going to pick Z and Y because we want Z over here, Y up here. I would like to, in this case, go off model origin again because maybe I don't have the dynamic work offset setup. And now this is going to give me a warning. And the reason why this is giving me a warning is because we're dealing with bodies at the end of the day. Again, I need to go back and make sure I'm picking the components, not the bodies. So let's go ahead and reset that one more time. So I'm back at my first setup. The item that I would like to manufacture is number 1. The item I want to manufacture on number 2 is going to be that other instance. And just like that, anything we do to 1 now will happen automatically to number 2. So this is the advantage of having things like your components, your designs linked. Pompey, I want to thank you real quick for the beer, as always. But let's say I go to my first setup, right? So now let's go ahead and do our facing. Again, we're going to select our tool. So now we're facing off the part profile here. If I hit F8 on my keyboard, you'll see my stock comes through. If I go to my next setup, again, I'm just going to duplicate this guy and drag it down. Now you'll see is when I regenerate this guy, we're now working on the other side of our tombstone. And even though my stock is so close in size, let's go ahead and adjust my stock size. Good old fixed size box, a little bit bigger, a lot a bit bigger. But we should see that stock automatically update as we jump through our different setups. So again, you can see I faced off one side of that block already. I'm now facing off this side. So this is one way you can do your tombstones. Again, with the inserting of the cam data does make it nice. Linking your components, your jigs and fixtures. I just know at the end of the day, I haven't had the time to sit down and really proof out a perfect workflow. This is techniques that I've used over the years that have worked quite well. Just bringing in your vices, placing your parts and going. And then because the ability to copy and paste the same component consistently allows for you at the end of the day, of course, to be able to always bring that stock through from side to side to side to side. Pompey with the beers. I appreciate it heavily, Pompey. Sounds like you had no problem getting them purchased. So again, any other questions out there for you guys? Anything else you're looking to see? Let me get back over there to chat. This might be a short one this week. You guys don't ask questions or send me stuff, I can't really show off a lot of stuff. Let me know, did that work for you there, small boy John? Is that going to do it for you? I do know somebody was going to send us something and I never got it. Let me go check our Facebook message area. They were talking about like a very small item. And then whenever they messed around with, I think, activating their setup, it zoomed way, way, way far out. We might have to try that. Should we make a micro-sized part and see what we can come up with? Let's just say, I don't know, 50.05, 0.05, teeny tiny little cube. And if we do manufacture, and let's do another setup and see what happens. I think I know what the problem is before we get too deep in this, and I'm going to keep myself quiet until we get to that point. Yeah. So odds are the problem that people were saying is that all of a sudden the entire thing was zooming way in and way out. What happens is if you set your files up correctly and you're doing your setups, what can happen is the model itself being selected for manufacturing, it might be trying to grab your entire jig and fixture. And that would be why it's automatically zooming in and out based on the size of everything going on. So in this case, let's say we were just going to go fixed size block, right? Now, if you went in and turned off a bunch of stuff, and now as you guys can see, when I activate my different setups, we're automatically orientating and turning everything on. That is because I have my sync with active setup, sync view cube, and the sync view width as well. So again, what can happen is if you're dealing with a very small component, there might be something else out there that you don't see, right? So as you can see, I did just the body here. This is why we always highly recommend doing components, making sure you're selecting actually the component. The component does not have a million bodies and surfaces in it. These are all things that we teach and we train people on day in and day out and what we recommend, right? So, I don't know, guys. This might be it. I think, is this it for the week? We got no other problems out there? I hit you guys with the good old fashioned thanks to Pompeii with the beers. But if you guys learned something new, we've helped solve your problems. Or if you just want to give a little bit more to continue this channel to be open and free to the public on Fridays, you could buy us a beer, buy us a steak, or buy us a lobster. Now, outside of that, I'm going to get back to just me, and I'm going to pause for a second, and I'm going to start the outro since we don't see a lot of support tickets coming in. And if you guys still have questions, feel free to throw them in chat at any time. You could also message us down below, but it's not what you guys know, it's who you know. And you all know who? Fusion Phil over here at JitCAD Cam. We are here to support you regardless of if you're our customer or in the future you plan to be our customer, or you're just sick and tired of all the bad information out there. Had this happen earlier this week. Everybody led somebody on a rabbit hole, going this way, changing this in their post, doing that, when in actuality, the problem all resided back inside of Fusion with something like their x-axis being pointed the wrong way. That is why we are here. We are here for you guys to continue to learn together, teach you guys the best and the latest and greatest, as well as keep everybody up to date. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. We will see you Wednesday next week when we are reviewing and showing off Machine Connector that allows live machine monitoring, as well as the ability to transfer and send programs to and from your machine, all via the Fusion Cloud. So as always, guys, have a great one, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday.